Okay, we are live. We are live. Okay, let me just double check the post is public so your friends can see me. All right, it is public. Okay, and good evening, everyone. So it's Tuesday evenings with Happy Coach, and the usual timing it's 9 p.m. But because I'm interviewing Christine, who is actually based in Australia now, so I shifted the timing to an hour earlier. Well, I guarantee you today will be a very meaningful conversation with Christine. So let's welcome Christine. Yay.
Hi, Yuantai. Thanks for
Welcome.
having me, and thanks for accommodating my time. Well, it's 10 o'clock in Australia at the moment, or at
Yeah,
least
it's
in
her
Melbourne.
bedtime.
Yes, because I got to bed quite early. So thank you so much for making this Facebook Live a bit earlier for me. Appreciate
Yeah,
that.
it's my pleasure. Yeah. So Christine, just tell us a little bit about what do you do?
So I am a public servant. I work for the Victorian government within the Department of Health. So in Singapore, it's the Ministry of Health. Within the Mental Health Division, I'm a senior advisor to the Minister of Mental Health. Minister Martin Foley back then, and now Minister Molino. That's my full-time job, but out of my full-time job, I actually have a passion project. I run a social enterprise called Generation 414, and it is a social enterprise that sells handmade products made by survivors of sex trafficking from Southeast Asia. And we raise funds that provide income for the ladies. And I also use their products to start conversation around the issue of human trafficking within Australia.
Okay, got it. So why do you do what you do? Maybe you just take us a little bit back and down, take a little walk down the alleys of history and just bring us back in time a little bit. So how do you get exposed, and what was the life changing moment for you?
I think Generation 414, it is something really close to my heart because I'm Asian, even though I live in Australia. But what really absolutely broke my heart is that I used to live in Singapore, and we used to go to Thailand, or we go down to Southeast Asia to just eat or shop quite often because it's just so cheap to do that. And there was one time I was traveling with a Caucasian friend of mine, and then I got approached and asked, "Oh, how much do you charge?" Because they thought that I was, he paid for my service. Yeah, I was a street walker, or I must put it crudely, a sex worker, and he kind of bought me. So they would ask him, "Oh, how much do you pay for her?" Or they'll just blatantly come and grab me and ask, "Oh, how much?" And I go, "Excuse me, I am not for sale." And I realized in that holiday that I could come back to Australia and lead my very comfortable, happy life. But around me on the streets, and if you've been to Thailand or you've been to Bangkok or Pattaya, you would know the streets are lined with all these girls that are in bars and in nightclubs, and they also sometimes sell their bodies for money. And I go, what is going to become of that? What's going to become of her tonight? Where is she going to go? And what is she going to be doing?
Pause for a moment. At that point of time, what was your profession? What were you doing?
That time I was a mental health clinician. So I work in a mental health space. I used to work in a youth psychiatric ward over here. And so even in the youth psychiatric ward, sometimes some of them, although young, have also prostituted themselves. And it is very heartbreaking to hear the stories why they have to sell their bodies. And so it's just, you look at the streets in Thailand, and those girls, they look like they should be in school. They're not washed up older ladies, and not that older ladies, it gives them any better reason. But it's just that it just absolutely breaks my heart. You would have young cousins or, family members that are in school age, and they'll be in secondary school, or some of them even as young as primary school. And you go, they are on the streets working, they are street workers, and it shouldn't be. In Singapore, I think we're really privileged that we've got access to free education or really cheap education. And education is compulsory. It is made by the government that everyone should at least have primary education, if not secondary, if you've got the opportunity. But you go to Thailand, you go to Cambodia, you go to Myanmar, you go to Laos, a lot of girls, boys are still favored over girls, and many of them do not have access to education. But they are then, given the burden to provide for the family. And if you've got no education, you've got no literacy skills, no numeracy skills, no trade, what can you do? And so
your options
prostitution
are very limited, right? So
Your
most of
options
them
are-
are forced into the sex trade.
forced or out of family, piety or responsibility, that sense of responsibility. I'm an older sister. I've got younger siblings to feed. I need to do something. So this is what I can do to provide for the family. So when I used to work on the ground for A21 campaign, and I have conversations with some of the girls when we do outreach, they go, what options do I have? And which is really sad, absolutely heartbreaking.
But are there not existing organizations in Thailand that are helping these ladies at that point of time, or there were but just not enough to even make a difference?
So there are many NGOs on the ground across Southeast Asia, across the Mekong Delta region. But if you've been onto the streets of Bangkok in the entertainment strip, you would see that how many NGOs would you need to ensure that all the girls receive an education or all the girls have alternate opportunities? You would need a tremendous amount of organizations to be able to do that, or that the government needs to change their education policy to ensure that all the children get educated. Which is costly. To be honest, I think it costs the Singapore government a tremendous amount of money to make sure that all the children receive, if not private education or public education at a really affordable price.
So how do you think it could actually make a difference? And most people, at that point of time, they'll just think that, okay, these girls are suffering, I ought to do something. But what is it that prompted you to actually take action and to actually devote much of your life into creating awareness and supporting these people?
Well, I've got a lived experience of being abused as a child. And I see, these young girls on the street and engaging, men engaging in child sex tourism. I see that as blatant abuse, or if not just rape. Blatant rape, because even though they say there is consent, what kind of consent is that? It's not really consent, in my personal opinion.
There's imbalance of power, there is imbalance of experience, whatever. It's just imbalance, and there's no way that. So are the laws in Thailand at that point of time, do they actually protect these people, or it's just not enforced?
The greatest irony is that Thailand has one of the strongest anti-human trafficking policies, legislations, and laws. But you are right.
I didn't know that. Actually, I didn't know that.
I didn't know it till I was working in the space. So apparently they have one of the strongest, but putting it on paper or putting it into a legislation is one thing. The enforcement of the legislation is a whole different ball game. And as you know, poverty, it's not just a goat, it's a community thing. And so if you look at their law enforcement and how much of a salary they draw compared to how much our police officers draw, they have very minimal salary wages also. And so in order for the police officers to kind of feed and provide for their family, they have to find alternative source of income. And then if the syndicates want to run their trafficking rings, they bribe the police officers. So there are some, not all of them are corrupt. There are some really good law enforcers around, but then there is also
but
The
there are
not so
enough of
good
the bad
ones.
ones around to make sure that the syndicates still can do their thing.
Yeah. I think we've watched enough movies and TVs to know how it works, or we get a sense of how syndicate works and how, you would have law enforcers that are not of the most highest moral standards, that kind of not help the situation. Yeah.
Okay, so in your years of being involved, creating awareness and supporting these people, what was your takeaways from all these years of experience? What do you grow and what do you learn out of this that you want to share with people who might be thinking about supporting such causes?
The numbers are huge. They look like they're against us. And so the numbers, we have about 46 million people trapped in human trafficking today. So it's not just sex trafficking. We talk about labor trafficking. We talk about child soldiers. We talk about false marriages. So all the different methods of trafficking, we're looking at 46 million people. That is how many times the population of Singapore.
That's a huge number.
It is huge. It is twice the population of Australia, and I don't know what the population is of Singapore now, but just think every one of us trapped in slavery. So the numbers look huge.
So this 46 million is referring to the children trapped in this, is it?
This is across all the different forms of human trafficking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 46 million involved in human trafficking. Okay.
And these are the numbers that we can count. There is a lot that goes underground in the dark web that we can't count. So based on the UNODC and the research that they did, this was the numbers that they could kind of use the formula and try and triangulate and say this is what we have at the moment, or that was 2 years ago. Apparently, COVID has just pushed a lot more people into the underground, and we don't have the latest numbers, but I can just imagine that it has just grown over time because of poverty, because of loss of income. They have no other alternatives. They put themselves in vulnerable positions to be exploited by others. And then there would be people that would, take advantage of this opportunity to then try and exploit other people, which is a terrible thing to do. But we need to acknowledge that it does exist.
Okay.
So what can people do, even though the numbers are stacked against us?
What's the first step that someone might be able to take? What's the first small step to be involved in this fighting against this trafficking?
I think awareness, awareness and talking about it, that it exists. It's a very good point to start. I know people think that it doesn't exist in Singapore. Guess what? It does. If you look at the streets of Geylang, I wonder, how do these people get there? Sex trafficking, not so much in Singapore, but labor trafficking. So, we have proper policies to bring in domestic help across into our households to help, our families to look after our children or our elderly parents. Some of them come through legal means, and, they're carefully looked after and properly looked after by, families like yourself and my family. But there are others that get trapped in the house and the abuse takes place and then never let out of the house. And I've seen over the years newspaper articles about, them not having off days. Their living conditions are terrible. They don't get fed. They get abused. Some of them even get raped by their employers. And it happens in Singapore. So we need to talk about it. And I think this week in the Straits Times, there was also an article where a man tried to, I think using social media, I can't remember whether it was Instagram or TikTok, to get a 13-year-old, to traffic a 13-year-old to service a 30-year-old. Yeah. So imagine secondary 1 student, a 13-year-old. That is rape. To me, it is rape.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about it. We need to educate our children. We need to educate our men, to have respectful relationships with women, that their bodies are not commodities. I do also know that Singaporean men do fly down to, not that we can travel now, but back then when pre-COVID, Singaporean men do travel down to Thailand to engage in sex tourism. I would say that bodies are not commodities, and women and children, especially children, should not be bought or sold. And we need to have conversations around this.
Yeah, because I think this kind of things, to be honest, they do tend to be swept under the carpet, especially in first world country like Singapore. We tend to ignore or turn a blind eye to all these issues which actually exist, and generally we just don't talk about it. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, right. I agree with you that awareness is the first step about it. And maybe could you share a little bit about Generation 414 and what was it about? What do you want to achieve with this movement?
Yeah, so Generation 414, as I shared earlier, is a social enterprise. It imports products made by survivors from Thailand, survivors from Cambodia, survivors from Myanmar, so across the Mekong Delta region, so the products into Australia. But I also ship internationally, so I have people that would buy from the US, from UK. A lot of my Singaporean friends support the cause. So when we the model is a model of empowerment. So rather than setting up a charity and asking people to donate, these girls, you must think about the journey that they've taken themselves on, really, to have no literacy, no numeracy skills, to have no trade, to then be able to make a beautiful bag or beautiful jewelry or beautiful items. And when we kind of teach them how to make jewelry, it's also art therapy. So it's
See on the
very
screen,
tactile.
I'm sharing your website.
Yeah.
Generation 414. And please carry on.
Yeah. So it's very tactile, and it's colorful. So it's like art therapy for them too. And so when I wear a necklace made by the survivor, it is a beautiful expression of the journey that they've taken on from no skill to be able to make something so beautiful. And they have so much pride when they make that thing. I always share this story. One of the girls, when they come in, usually the girls come in their first couple of weeks, they don't talk to anybody. They just learn the skill, do what they're told, and just head down, do things. But as they grow and they go through therapy and they grow to know that they have value, they have purpose, they have worth, you see them start having conversations, and they see them have laughter and joy back in their lives. And then when they make something really beautiful, sometimes you see them taking selfies and just really proud of their handiwork, and it is just a beautiful journey to watch. And so
Christine, the products that I'm showing, all those are made by these people.
These are all made by survivors from the different countries.
Okay. So you are watching, please drop by the website. It's Generation without S, Generation 414. You just type it out, 4114.com/products.
So the more you buy, the more products you buy, the more girls we're able to help, the more girls will be able to employ, the more girls will be able to educate and keep off the streets. So please come and support and buy, and buy it in advance. It's great Christmas presents. It is so meaningful, and I just love, sometimes every time they launch a new collection, I have trouble selling them because I want to keep them all and I want to give it to my friends.
Oh, actually, they are very beautiful. I'm just looking at
very beautiful. And a lot of the words are very empowering. So as the girls put together the jewelry, they're also speaking those words of life over them. So it is, I think it's just a really beautiful thing, you know, and a beautiful journey that the girls go on when we try and empower them and when we set up this social enterprise to support the cause.
Yes, yes. So actually, I noticed that you are going to launch a new book. Just tell me a little
Yes.
bit about this book. Yeah.
So it launched today. So very, very exciting. It is called Reasons to Live. One day,
Yeah.
every day, and this is the third volume and the last volume of the series Reasons to Live. So Jess, which is a great girlfriend of mine and a strong advocate in the anti-trafficking movement, also has written the first two books, and really it is stories of people with lived experience of trauma, of abuse, of mental health issues. And it is written from a strength-based approach. It is written from an angle of a person with a lived experience on how they walk from darkness into light. And the book really serves as an encouragement to the reader that if you're going through something and it seems really dark or you can't see the light, there is hope. There is always hope, and to not give up.
Yeah.
So there is a reason to live, because a lot of people and myself too, in the past, when life seems so dark, you really struggle. And sometimes, I don't know if you've asked yourself sometimes a bit, why on earth am I here for? What am I doing? I know I've asked that many a nights. And so I could not, at a certain periods in my life, I go, what is my reason for living? And so this book really, in this book, I talk about my childhood. I talk about the trauma that I experienced in my childhood and then in my teenage years, and how that experience has really pushed me, you know, and then plus the experience of seeing other children suffer across Southeast Asia, and how it's really driven me to then set up Generation 414 to be able to then, you know, raise funds, provide education and, you know, skills for women and children, so that we try and keep as many women and children off the streets, and so that no child should ever have to go through and experience what I did.
Yeah, so if you are online and you're watching this, order right now. Actually ordering, I'm gonna order 3 of them. So you can see I'm sharing screen. So I just click on the checkout button. Yeah,
Thanks
so
for your
please go
support,
and support
Yuantai.
the new book. It's launched today, and there are many products on sale as well in her website. Please do check out her website, generation414.com. And beautiful products, please support them. And they are actually, the price is really very reasonable actually. Yeah, so please support them. And I'm sure this is a very meaningful cause. So I really want to highly recommend everyone, please drop by and please share with your friends as well.
Yeah.
Okay, let me just
and it's like the book, if you like with COVID, I know a lot of people are really having a very difficult time and finding it very challenging. In Australia, the numbers for mental health presentations have increased by 30% in the emergency department. I can only imagine similar numbers in Singapore, considering how stressful it is. Plus, you know, the pandemic and how I'm not quite sure about how it really happened, but you know, with the foreign workers and in the dorms and the tremendous, I don't know how it impacts the Singaporeans, but just looking at the numbers from Australia, it just looks scary. And I go, will my family be impacted? And so I can imagine the mental health, you know, pressures that people are going through during the pandemic. So this book is really a book of encouragement.
Yeah.
For people that are just struggling a little bit during this pandemic, that, you know, it serves as an encouragement, and that hopefully it brings you hope.
Yeah. Okay, I'm almost done with my order. Let's hope it goes through. Pay now. And yes, it's being processed. So please order the book and please support the course, there are many products on sale as well as on the website. And yes, please drop by the website. Generation, once again, is generation without a S, generation414.com. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Okay. So Christine, what are you looking forward to in terms of Generation 414 movement? How are you going to bring it to the next level or get more people involved in this movement?
Well, the name Generation 414 is it's about raising up a generation that will not keep quiet about injustice. So 414, it's actually inspired by an historical figure called Queen Esther. So the story of Queen Esther is that she was a Jewish girl that married a Persian king. And the Persian king's right-hand man, Haman, actually made the king decree to completely eliminate the Jewish community in Persia. And so she was then challenged by her cousin to go to the king and kind of beg for a pardon on behalf of her people. And Esther was like, he doesn't even know that I'm Jewish. If I go and, stand before him and ask him to pardon my people, then he'll find out that I'm Jewish and I might lose my life. And really, her cousin then said to her, look here, Esther, perhaps you were made queen and you were born for such a time like this. If you keep quiet, the people will perish. So you need to have courage, stand up for this injustice of your people and do something. And so she plucked up her courage, and she went before her husband and the king and said, please spare my people. And her bravery, was paid off, and the king withdrew the decree to eliminate the Jewish people. And so even in today, the Jewish culture, they celebrate this festival called Purim to really celebrate Esther's bravery. And so that verse, if you keep quiet, your people will perish. You were born for such a time as this is in the book of Esther, chapter 4, verse 14. So Generation 414 is really trying to inspire our generation and the next generation that, for me, it's human trafficking. But what is your injustice? What makes you upset at night? Or what is it that you see that you go, I cannot turn a blind eye? Speak up about it, do something about it. Because if you don't do that, if you don't speak up and you don't stand up for injustice, that community or whatever you see is going to perish, it's going to suffer. But if you take up the courage and speak up, you might be able to bring about a positive change. And so
I'm not sure if I shared with you before, Christine. I'm not sure you have shared before. Actually, my calling is, it somewhat overlaps with yours. So my calling is to do mission work, specifically in the area of building schools for less privileged children. And of course, you mentioned earlier in your story of how you went to Pattaya and then you saw the sex tourists with the underage children, the children. And part of my mission is really overlaps with that, is to provide these people, these less advantaged or less privileged children with a chance at education so that they can have a means of earning an income in the right manner to bring their families out of poverty, to break that poverty cycle. Yeah, so this is what I strongly feel about. And as you share the story of Queen Esther, I mean, I'm also a Christian, so I'm familiar with that story. So it resonates with me. So I'm not sure for those who are watching, who are tuning in, what is your injustice? But yeah, let's find a cause and let's rally after it. Yeah. Well, sometimes for me, my turning point was when I got saved, 2003. Because prior to 2003, before I got saved, all I knew of life was what my parents wanted me to believe, which is to, like most people, to study hard, go to university, graduate with a degree, get a job as a professional, and work hard and earn a living, get married, settle down, have family, and that's that's all to life. That's my life before 2003. So I got saved in 2003, and then I realized that there should be more than life than just having a good job, having a good family, having a house. So I mean, all these things are good, but I think that there should be an injustice that all of us should be fighting for. Yeah, I firmly believe and I resonate with you as well.
And it's so true, because I first started off with a business degree and was a corporate consultant. And I go, there must be more to life than making money. And then what I experienced in Thailand absolutely broke my heart and said, no, I can't do this anymore. But I need to find ways to make money to be able to help. And a bit like, the more money I make, the more people will be able to help. And very similar, I want to make sure that every child has the opportunity to receive an education. I myself, when I was 16, after Sec 4, my parents were like, oh, you're going to get married someday anyway, so why should we bother to waste too much money on your education? But I am so thankful that my literature teacher told me, Christine, an education is the passport to whatever life you want. And I believed him. So even though my parents refused to fund my education after Sec 4, I just took up all these holiday jobs and part-time work to make sure that I received a university education. And I think I overcompensated with 3 masters now.
But now you're in a perfect place to now empower other people and bring them out of the poverty trap and towards a better life. Yeah.
And I'll share a really beautiful story that I experienced when I was in Cheng Kong. So Cheng Kong is at the border, the top northern border of Thailand. So I went on a kind of school outreach program with the mayor of Cheng Kong. And so there were all these kids in the assembly field out there. And so the mayor was talking, and she is the only female mayor in Thailand. That was my understanding back then. And so it was me and it was her, and we were just talking to the kids, and we were saying, oh, who thinks they can be the next mayor? And no kid put up their hands. So these kids are all living with their grandparents. Their parents have gone into the cities to work. So this is rural Thailand. And no kid believed that they could amount to anything good. But the mayor shared her story about how she believed in education, worked really hard, and now she is a mayor. And then I got to share this story too. And I said, look, my parents thought that I was a girl and then didn't think that I would amount to much. But I believe that an education was a passport to a different life. And, I studied really hard. I got good grades. I got scholarship. I got a chance to go to Australia to study, and I shared my journey. And then after the whole talk, the mayor and I then asked, so who now thinks they can be the next mayor? And every single kid put up their hand. And I go, so you just need to inspire children, and they would shoot for the stars. They just need role models. And I think we are a generation that we can be positive role models to the next generation and show them that, you just have to believe and work hard. And, that education is the passport to the life whatever life you want.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think we are all. I mean, for yourself and myself, we have a clear goal and we have an injustice that we are fighting for. But unfortunately, I think most of my friends, they are in their comfort zone. I mean, nothing wrong with that. They are in their comfort zone. They have not found a cause to fight for. So for yourself, how will you encourage somebody to go and discover this little spark or this little injustice that cause that person to wake up? Hey, I'm living for a cause that I'm really excited about, that really to work hard to see that this cause will be achieved in my lifetime. How will you encourage someone to take that little step to discover that something worth fighting for?
Yeah. So this is something that I learned at a passion conference close to 10 years ago. So I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were having this conference for university age students, 60
Mm-hmm.
5,000 of them in like the NFL, Super Bowl kind of stadium, and all the first year to final year students, and the pastor was saying, if you're a law student and go and you're becoming a lawyer, then go and do some pro bono work. And if you're a medical student and you're graduating to be a doctor, then go on some medical missions. Or if you're in Cordon Bleu and you're learning to be a pastry chef, then go and cook something or go help out in the soup kitchen. So whatever gift and talents you have, go and use it for good. Or and then there's some things you like and you're good at. So even though it may not be your profession, but you enjoy doing it. It's like, I have a girlfriend. So I have a girlfriend. She goes, I'm just a homemaker. I'm just a house mom. What can I do? But she crochets. She loves crocheting, and she crochets blankets, and she crochets, beanies for babies, and she donates them to the hospital. So everybody has something to offer, and you just have
That's
to
right.
look what is in your hands. What skills do you have, and what is in your hands? And use that for good, and use that for something that you think you are passionate about, or there is a cause that you feel that you are more inclined to. I always guest lecture or RMIT, the University Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. Because I was, they would always bring me in to guest lecture their first year students to inspire them. I say, whatever, just
What
go.
will you say to inspire them?
Well, I go into the first year social work students, and I say, if you want to be rich or you want to be famous, you're in the wrong course. The door is that way. But you have signed up to be a social work student and eventually graduate as a social worker because something has upset you enough for you to want to study and then do something about it. So do that and take whatever that is in your hands, whatever skills that you have, and whatever that you're passionate about, and just do it. You don't always get it right. Nobody gets it right the first time. Sometimes I've done it 10 times and I still fail. But what is important is that you keep doing it. It's like, for me, I have baked cupcakes for more than 10 years. I think I've baked cupcakes for 20 years. And there are still some days when my cakes don't rise. So I don't always, I always tell my mother-in-law, I've baked thousands of cupcakes across the 20 years. But there are still days where the cakes don't rise. I don't always have it perfect, but that does not, one setback does not stop me from helping or from doing something. So I encourage anyone to just give it a shot. You may think, I want to try this, or I want to support this charity, or I want to support this NGO. And then you try for maybe a few months and go, this is not working out. It's okay. You don't always have to get it right, but at least you've given it a shot. And whatever NGO and charity that you've supported, I guarantee you would have appreciated your help.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So what are you looking forward to in the next 12 months?
In the next 12 months, in Victoria, we have just finished the Royal Commission into Victorian's mental health system. So our mental health system is in complete shambles. There is 14.5 kilograms thick of recommendations to implement.
Wow.
So as a senior advisor within the division, I would be I'm very involved in it. So we'll be busy rolling out those recommendations within the mental health division. But the other thing, so that's within the mental health space. For human trafficking, I think I've just gone onto the board of Project Respect, which is the Victorian NGO for supporting traffic survivors here in Melbourne. And so we're really trying to bring human trafficking into the forefront of our members of parliament, in front of our ministers, and go, look, we need to put more attention into this, because it is an issue here, and we cannot just, like you say, sweep it under the carpet. We need to support the women, and some of them are quite young, the children. We need to support the people that are in vulnerable situations that need our help and our protection. And we have the modern slavery bill that was passed, but really there are a lot of gaps in the bill, and we really want to strengthen that. So working very closely with legislations, trying to build allies. We've got a senior member within the legal framework in Victoria that has become our ambassador. So we're working really closely with her to try and strengthen our prosecution laws and our legislations within the Modern Slavery Act.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
How has COVID affected your work, and as well as your work, both in a professional manner and also for the generation 4 and 4?
So COVID within the mental health framework. So mental health sits under health, as you would know.
Yep.
When COVID happened, all the hospitals really have to kind of step up their game to make sure that infectious control, the social distancing, the cleaning, we're just trying to get really the PPEs in. Every country was trying to get PPE, and so we had to make sure that we had our procurement systems put in place to make sure that our nursing, our clinical staff have enough PPE to keep themselves protected from the virus. And so the first thing was all the the PPE stuff, but also after that, it's how are they managing the stress? How are their mental health coping? And because of back then it was unknown, so we didn't know how infectious it was. So many of our healthcare workers never gone home. We had hotels for heroes. So the government actually booked hotels where medical and clinical staff could go and stay in, so that they don't go home for fear they might bring the virus back home. And so to not be with your family during this really stressful period of time in the unknown was just really challenging. And in Victoria, we had the longest lockdown. I think we had 8 months of lockdown.
Wow, that's really long.
It was very long. For months. I think the whole of last year, pretty much, I only went out once a week for an hour to the supermarket to get supplies.
Wow.
It really felt like the stories my grandmother shared about World War II, where they used to just hide, and never went out, or they would just go out to, dig for the sweet potatoes, and then they have to go back to their underground caves. It felt very much like that. We weren't allowed out before 5 or 6 a.m. and after 8 a.m. you cannot go out. If you are caught on the streets after 8 p.m., you'll be pulled over by the police. That was how strict our curfew was. And then, the 5 kilometers radius, it was awful. My in-laws are just, 2 kilometers down the road, but you just could not visit because you're not allowed to visit anywhere. You're just supposed to stay home. So that had significant mental health implications on a lot of the Victorian community. And now that the restrictions are a little bit more eased, they're all presenting at the emergency department. So people are presenting to the hospitals with higher acuity, they're more unwell in the mental health space, because they were just, I cannot go out, I cannot go to the hospital, I'll just stay at home and I'll manage my mental health. But you can't really manage your mental health on your own. You need a team.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and so it's been really challenging. And so I think the Royal Commission recommendations have come at a really good time. that we can rebuild a system, and the budget just got announced last week or the week before, and government has been really, really generous with the mental health budget so that we can actually build a system that's going to be effective.
Okay, thankful for that. So once again, just want to mention, please drop by Generation 414 and check out their website, these products as well. And Christine has launched a new book today, Reasons to Live, and it's at generation414.com/products/reasons to live. Yeah, please support the book. I've just bought 3 books for myself, and of course to give away to a couple of friends. And thank you, Christine, for your time. This is a really very heartwarming interview. Was first person that I interviewed is involved in the sex trafficking or human trafficking work, something which is often not talked about, but I feel we should have more conversations about it. Just because we are in Singapore and everything seems rosy and dandy doesn't mean that we should not be aware that there are people who are being their rights are being taken away and they are being pushed to a very risky and compromised situations. Thank you, Christine, for your time, and I wish you all the best.
And thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about something that I'm totally passionate about. So thank you, Yuantai. Thank you very much.
Please connect with Christine on Facebook. You can find her,
please.
Christine Teo, on Facebook, or you can drop by generation414.com website. And thank you, guys.
Send me a message.
Yes, thank you. Take care, guys, and take care. Thank you, Christine, for your time. We have a good night's rest, and
thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
You have a lovely night.
Bye-bye.